Well, yes.
And in all that time, you didn't feel like you were leading her on at all?
No.
You were taking a nap. I noticed you had been distant and strange, especially considering you just had a baby. I grabbed your phone and I looked at it and it said, I love you, I miss you.
Can I speak?
And I'm going to be real pissed off if you try and deny it.
Can I say?
No,
let it
you
go.
are
Just let it go.
stepping over the line.
It's not true.
And I've heard all the girls apologize for at least something.
With
them, it's like we have to force them. Like, are you gonna say sorry? And
You know, I mean, he doesn't believe in divorce. I'm not scared of it. If I have proof that he's cheating ever at any point,
You should leave him.
I am.
You're lying, you're a liar, you're a scam artist.
Oof, part 3 of the tell-all is here, and everyone is a cheater, and everyone is shameless about it. Let's get into it. Hi guys, welcome back to Nikki Faces Reality. We are here to discuss 90 Day Fiancé The Last Resort, the tell-all part 3. So word on the street is that we're actually gonna get 5 parts. Did we need 5 parts? I don't really know. I feel like this particular episode could have been squeezed into another one. I don't really feel like we needed a full hour, but here we are. Still some important things happened that we need to discuss. Before we get into it, as always, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. So we're gonna jump straight in with Stacey and Florian because, as you know, Florian is in the hot seat. Rightfully so. Particularly in this segment, Georgie's in the hot seat because Sean is pressing him with questions. She's like, do you think Florian is trustworthy? And here's the thing. I think Georgie is thinking very carefully about what to say because in any way that he exposes Florian, he's exposing himself because they're always partying together. And what's funny to me is that, of course, Darcy has to center herself in this. In commenting on Stacey's relationship, she's like, you know, like, we're in the same boat. My relationship isn't perfect either. It felt like that was her way of being like, expect me in the next season of The Last Resort. But basically, she's like, you know, the relationships aren't perfect. We're in the same boat. So you really shouldn't try to sugarcoat it. I don't think Stacey has ever tried to sugarcoat her relationship. I think that this is Darcy's insecurity of feeling like her sister has been in the more stable relationship for so long. And finally now she can even the playing field. Again, it's like their competitive nature. But then they replay the scene of when Stacey confronted Florian about the news that Darcy gave her, that Darcy said Georgie phoned in. When they play it back, Georgie... It looks like Georgie wants to crawl into a hole and never come out. I don't think that he expected Darcy to throw his name in. So I think for him, it was a moment of like, damn, I messed up bro code. She definitely threw me under the bus. So of course, everyone's like, so Georgie, like, what was it that happened at the bar? What did the girl tell you? What did you tell the girl? And this man had amnesia. He could not remember a thing. And Stacey's like, Florian's not gonna hit you, it's okay. So Florian recounts the story of what happened with the girl. He basically walked her home. She was a neighbor. She was drunk. He didn't want her to be alone in the street. His story has been consistent. Love that. Usually liars will slip up, you know? However, it gets a little murky. It gets a lot murky when Stacey says that his location was completely off. Now, I know that the sharing of locations is controversial. I change my mind on how I feel about it all the time. But I would say, if you have been sharing your location and this one night you are out and it's all of a sudden off, or all of a sudden I can't locate you, that's a little shady. And of course, it's really hard to know like what really happened because he says that he didn't take it off. Stacey feels like she might have deleted it. She doesn't know. She's not tech savvy. It's very unclear. I'm unsure if it actually happened or if this is like a producer-driven plot. But in this back and forth, I think Stacey says that she forgot. And he's like, of course you forgot. And Ari jumps on Florian's throat. She's like, you are a woman hater. You always demean women. You bully women. And he's like, I'm not even talking to you. Like, what are you going on about? So then Messy Sean asks the whole room, how many of you think Florian will cheat again? And all of the women raised their hands. And I would love to know what you guys think. I don't know if Florian would cheat again, but I think that there's something to the fact that their lifestyles are progressively getting more and more different. As she's getting older, she doesn't want to be out in the Miami streets all of the time. And it sounds like this is what he does a lot. You know, I have zero tolerance for cheating, but I find that the less you have in common or the less you do together, I feel like it leaves room for temptation, especially with alcohol in the mix. So yeah, I mean, ugh. Stacey seems pretty decided though. If she finds any sort of tangible proof that he has cheated again, she will divorce him. And she said it. She's like, I could give a rat's ass whether or not he believes in divorce. I'm gonna do it because I want peace. And you know what? I hear that. Can you imagine being 60 crying over a man? Being worried that a man is cheating on you? No. So the segment is over, they go on break, and the girls stay around and they're talking crap about Florian, okay? And I just think it's comical, right? Because all of these ladies, with the exception of Stacey, in my opinion, are so disrespectful. So even if what they're saying is true, they are the worst possible messengers for this. Ari specifically makes a comment about the men being empowered to being like their worst versions of themselves when they're together. And it can be argued that that goes both ways. I mean, this entire season of The Last Resort has been Battle of the Sexes. It's comical just to see how tone deaf both of these groups are, because it goes to the men, and of course this charge is led by Rob, and Rob is like, you know, Ari's a man hater. She thinks that men sticking together is like misogynistic. I feel like there's truth and there's reaches for both of these statements. But I think the nail in the coffin for me of being like, girl, please never talk again, is Sophie being like, yeah, you know, we're so willing to apologize and we have to like beg for them to apologize. And I'm like, are we watching the same show? She has never taken accountability. But anyway, we moved straight into the Ari and Bini segment, and I think this segment was enlightening in some ways, and in some ways it didn't do a thing for me. So again, they confirmed that they're separated, they want to get divorced, but really haven't moved along in terms of the paperwork. Ari says that even though they're not together, she's still his manager against her will. She says that, you know, he still calls her for contracts and things like that, and she feels like she's being sucked in every time. But I don't know how I feel about that. Bini needs to respect the boundary and she needs to set the boundary. But I also feel like from the start of their relationship, and even the way that she talked about him on The Last Resort, she has like this bit of like a martyr complex where she's like, he's gonna sink without me. I want the best for him. And I just don't know that he could do it without me kind of attitude. But then is quick to turn it and throw it on his face. So I just feel like if you don't want to do something, don't do it. If you're going to complain about it to the public, don't do it. Don't be nice behind the scenes and do something and then come to the public and be like, oh, I'm so annoyed that he's still asking me to do this. You know what I mean? And don't get me wrong, I can empathize with her wanting him to be, you know, on the right path because this is an example for their son. I just am annoyed by the whole concept of like throwing something constantly in someone's face when you don't have to help. You don't. He's a grown-ass man. He's been in America long enough. He obviously knows how to get around when he needs to do things behind your back. You can let him do things for his own benefit. People do as much as you allow. If you make it okay for him to constantly run back to you for help, he's gonna keep doing it. Sean asks, you know, what her relationship status is. It sounds like she's been dating around and Bini has also been dating around. So like, no one can make faces. They're both doing the same thing. They're allowed to. But then we get to the meat of it. Sean is like, Bini, so, you know, a lot of the drama has been around whether or not you cheated. And he begins to give like a long-winded answer that's leading to nothing. And Ari's like, you cheated on me 4 times. Specifically, you cheated on me after, I think she had a C-section. Point is, she had a very complicated birth and she was going through it. And she found the text thread while he was sleeping. And when she woke him up to address it, he deleted it. So she regrets not screenshotting it. And he completely gaslit her. So Sean is like, Bini, did you cheat on her while she was pregnant? And finally, he admits that he cheated. And I know I've dragged Ari all season long, and she deserves it, but that in no way ever means that I was in defense of Bini's trifling ass. Even without this information, Bini was never gonna be the golden partner. He lacks communication skills. He lacks social awareness. He thinks that every opportunity is entertainer time. He lacks a backbone with Ari and everyone else. But for me, I think you are lower than scum when you cheat on your partner when they've gone through surgery, when they've gone through birth, when they've gone through something traumatic. Because when you betray them in their most vulnerable moments, you can't ever say that you love them. You can't ever say that you respected them, in my opinion. That is when someone needs you the most and you decide to be your most selfish. I haven't birthed children, but I can empathize with just the disarray that you must be feeling of like, I just brought life into this world. I just went through something traumatic with this man, for this man, and it means nothing to him. He's already looking to replace me. I'm out of commission for X amount of weeks, and he's looking to dip his peen somewhere else. Like, what? Also, aside from the physical, it was also emotional. He's texting this person, I love you. It's a different kind of low. And, he finally apologizes. And I get the feeling that they had already discussed this in person. But Ari went on the show to get him to admit it on TV because I really do think that she wanted like validation. Even though she says she doesn't, she did. But he gives this apology that just doesn't feel sincere to me. It looks like he's embarrassed. And as annoying as Ari is, she begged you to admit it so many times. Why not just do it? Get it over with. But again, going along with my theory that they already discussed this in private, Ari didn't even like continue hammering in on him. She diverted her attention to Rob. To the men, but specifically to Rob. She was like, it's funny because I knew that you guys wouldn't have that same energy that you had for Jasmine for Bini. And the guys are like, whoa. We didn't know about Bini until just now. With Jasmine, we can see it. We can see that she cheated, And she's like, whatever, like, I just want to move on. I know Bini wants to move on. She's like, I don't really need anyone's validation. I know what happened in my relationship. And I disagree. You definitely wanted validation because you already knew that he cheated. You knew that before you went to the last resort. But you went on there, you wanted everyone to gang up on him with you, and you were upset that no one was taking your side. And I don't think people were not taking Ari's side because they think Bini is this great partner. No, they've said it. Bini is not an A1 partner. He's a good person in every other area. But I also think that people didn't take Ari's side because she's not likable. She's judgmental. She sucks the energy out of every room she walks into. I'm sorry. Like, you guys are not besties. They don't have to take your side. It's a little mean, especially when it's a bunch of people at the same time. I'm sure it doesn't feel good. But also, I think that that's a moment of reflection. You are a sucky person. Bini is sucky, but you are a suckier person. In my opinion. Bini again is like, I want to apologize. I'm sorry for that. There's no excuse. And at this point, I just want us to stop fighting and to focus on being co-parents. And he throws that co-parent thing a lot, but it doesn't sound like he's doing much co-parenting because Ari's like, yeah, maybe you should come see your son more. And I think that this is complicated, right? I could understand Bini not wanting to be around Ari, so he goes around less. But that's not fair to your son. And that doesn't make it a co-parenting situation. You are within your rights to take your son elsewhere. Have an activity planned and see your son. Have that quality time. They bring out Ari's mom, and I really like her. I feel like she's always been fair. She calls him out when she needs to, and she defends him when she needs to. She, of course, gets asked how she feels about the situation, specifically Ari keeping Bini's social media passwords. As you guys recall, he would not stop talking about it. I personally think that's the only reason he went to the resort. The mom is like, her keeping the passwords didn't get them anything. But Ari's like, now Bini, you know why I kept them. And they both disclose that the girlies that Bini has been hooking up with, I guess think that he has a lot of money. So the minute they see that the relationship is going nowhere, they try to extort him. Can you imagine that? And Bini, again, is like trying to talk around it. But he's like, yeah, like that happened. Ari's mom is like, you need to have a little more discernment. You can't be so trusting. Stop thinking with your peen, okay? And of course, now Messy Sean is like, so do you guys understand why Ari, might have kept the passwords? And the guys are like, yeah, no, we can like get it now why she would do that. And of course, Ari starts complaining like, oh, so when my mom says it, you guys hear it, but I said the same thing. And everyone's like, no, you didn't actually. You never revealed that he was getting extorted. It just seemed like you were being a control freak. And Florian is like, your mom is saying it in a nice way. She's being respectful. And she's like, oh, so I'm not being nice? Ari, be effing for real. You were like a nail in a chalkboard. And she's like, you guys never gave me the opportunity to like say my piece. And they're like, that's not true. And they're like, you never mentioned that he was getting extorted. She was like, oh, because he didn't want me to tell anyone. Well, they're judging you off of what you're showing, off of what they know. And Florian said it best, in you trying to protect Bini, you hurt yourself. And it was interesting because I feel like it was a moment of clarity for them to understand a little bit of her rage. It doesn't change how annoying she is, but it gives a little more insight to the friction in her and Bini's relationship. But still, ultimately, they're like, Bini's a cool dude. He's just trash in love, Then they get into this weird, and I say weird because it was repetitive AF. This weird segment about the times that Bini would flip over the girls and Florian's commentary on how he thought that it was so disrespectful. And it's interesting because Stacey then goes straight to dancing with Bini in front of Florian after she hears what he said. And I'm like, girl, you were just fighting with Florian a minute ago, making a fuss about how you feel disrespected by his actions. And then you're gonna go ahead and do that? Like, I get you wanting to get your lick back, but read the room. And Florian says that if Bini would have done that in his hometown, that would have been the last time he would have flipped somebody. And I think that that is an escalation. Everybody needs to grow up. But the between the sheets inserts is far from over because then they play back the scene of Ari and Julia's beef. So what happened was, I think this was right after Bini flipped Julia. Julia and Ari were like laughing, kikiing, and Ari says that she wrote to Julia, I hate you, bitch, but then they were laughing about it. I just don't see why you would have to type that if someone is in front of you. I don't get that. But Julia acknowledged that they were joking around. But then, for some reason or other, Julia shows the messages to the other girls, Jasmine, and they're like, oh, Ari is jealous of you because of your bond with Bini. So then there was this scene that Julia brought it up to Ari in front of the girls, and Ari felt ganged up on. She felt like Julia was, making this drama out of nothing. She felt like she was being defamed. So Ari was calling Julia all types of names. Fake, see you next Tuesday, like all of the names. And Julia was offended because she's like, why would you say those things about me? And they're beefing and it literally leads to nothing because Julia's like, you think I'm defaming you, but I literally said that it was a joke that then I started spiraling about. I feel like all of this was a huge escalation. I think that Julia let herself be used as a pawn. The girls definitely got into her ear. We saw that happen so many times this season with the way that Jasmine was like hyping up Natalie with the whole Vegas thing. And now this, it was so stupid. And I think that they caught how stupid it was. And Ari was like, oh, okay. And Julia gets up and they hug it out. And it was just so fake and no real resolution, and they're not going to be friends. So it was strange. But yeah, their segment is over. We see, Bini hugging Ari's mom. And, when I look at Bini, if you're from the Caribbean, there's these men that never settle down. They just don't. They have tons of kids. They're the eternal bachelors. They always seem to get play because they're, young at heart, but they are lonely at the end of the day. And I feel bad for him. And I don't know, I don't wish that on him, but that is what I see him as. Y'all, let's move on to Natalie and Josh. This one made my stomach turn a bit because it is just a little too common. So these two have not been together for some time. However, they have been intimate plenty, as Josh proudly let us know. He says that she sent him nudes and she sent him enticing messages like, come F me, and he just couldn't resist, you know? Natalie says that she struggled moving on. She didn't see the breakup happening, and I'm like, girl, how could you not read the signs? She says that she was blindsided by him breaking up with her at the resort. And I called it, you guys. I told you guys that that man was upset that she was so nonchalant at their breakup. Because if she was nonchalant, that means that she didn't care. And he needs her to care because he wants to have that door open to do what he wants with her. He wanted their relationship to be exactly as it was before the resort. He wanted to have some crazy schmacks and then dip and be like, but you know I'm not with you. And ultimately, what put that to a halt was her social media outbursts. Now, if you guys follow any of the 90-day meme accounts, 90-day news accounts, they have been putting screenshots of people making comments in Natalie's post and her responding with some salacious clapbacks. Not necessarily at them, but particularly about Josh. Allegedly, she said that Josh is a horrible father, that his new live-in girlfriend is a felon, and that his daughter should be scared. And now, think about the internet. You can't just be saying things like that. And I think this hit a nerve for Josh because he's going through, you know, something serious with his son who just went through a traumatic accident. So hearing that he's a bad father and having that spread on the internet, that's not something he wants. And I didn't particularly see that comment, but I did see her other posts of her posting like the cycles of abuse, the signs that you're with a narcissist. So I've been seeing that, and like, you'd be blind to not see that this man did use her like a puppet. There's no doubt in my mind that there were some serious mind games being played and that they were in a vicious cycle. So anyway, she made that huge allegation and he apparently was hitting her up like, you need to remove that. You can't be talking about me like that. And it was a heated conversation in the DMs. Natalie tries to downplay this like, oh, well, I didn't, go somewhere to do that. I was, responding in my comments and my posts. And I'm like, girl, you have over 300K followers. That's a lot of people that can spread that like venom. But then Messy Sean asks Josh, did he ever consider Natalie a girlfriend in the 3 years that they were involved? This man says no, he never has. And I know that it's very easy to pick on Natalie because she is batshit crazy, but I could never defend a man like Josh. There is nothing kind or gentlemanlike about a man that toys with you for 3 years. He proudly says that he's never claimed her, but shamelessly declares the times that he has claimed her body. That is violent as fuck to me. Like, Josh, how would you feel if your daughter told you that she was madly in love with a guy that she's been with for 3 years that does not care for her, that toys with her, that tells people how many times he's banged her, but otherwise avoids her like the plague? Would that make you feel good? Is that an honorable man? It's so gross, and like, they should have never been on The Last Resort. And the way that he's like, oh, well, I wanted to be on The Last Resort to, figure out if we could be together in a relationship. That's not what this is for. Natalie is so embarrassed by this. And Sean, of course, continues to question Josh. She's like, so in the 3 years that you were not with Natalie, were you with other people? And at first he says no, but then quickly is like, oh, well, she wasn't the only person I was with. He's such a loser, And Sean is like, so you don't think that you led her on in any way? And he has this scummy face and he's like, no. And, I know that it can be said that Natalie could have walked away many times, and she should have. The signs were there. This man does not like you. This man does not align with you. This man doesn't want to give you any of the things that you say that you need. However, how many times did this man come knocking on her door when she has walked away? It's like I've said, it's a vicious cycle. And if she lets go and he doesn't let go, that's how we have found ourselves here. And I just feel so bad because I don't think she's a great person, but no one deserves to be played with like this. And I think that's the most frustrating part for me as a viewer, that he doesn't miss an opportunity to like embarrass her. But then he plays the hero when other people gang up on her, And I think that's just another part of his game. Guys, never settle. never settle. I feel like we make ourselves so vulnerable for people like this that she was always an option to him, but he was always the only for her. And like, just multi-date. Don't settle too soon. And even Jasmine's like, you hooked up with her post-breakup. Do you not see how that is sending mixed messages? And he's acting like he's this helpless guy. Like, what would you have done if she sent you pictures? Like, I'm just a man. It's lame. He just wanted the same setup that they had before the resort. Like, he was never gonna commit to her. But then they get to the whole ordeal around his house, the fact that Natalie never got to visit his home. And he's like, my home is not this mystical place. I just don't trust her to be there. Because apparently, in one of her many outbursts, Natalie called one of his baby moms a hooker. And that's believable because that is Natalie's favorite word. She loves to call someone a hooker. And he's like, I'm not willing to, compromise my relationships with my co-parents. Like, that's not going to happen. And she's a danger to those relationships. Natalie begins to deny this. And he's like, no, like, stop it right there. And she starts saying, like, she was talking crap about me in an interview. She was the one that was attacking me. And he was basically, you guys, getting so stern. Like, you need to be quiet. Like, you're getting me really upset. And I didn't like that for a few things, for a few reasons. You are on these franchises because of Natalie. And I feel like he has gotten to be the mouthpiece for their relationship. All of the tell-all. He's the one that has been talking about their experiences. We haven't heard Natalie's side. Even if it's complete BS, she should have the forum to speak out. And for me, it felt like he was cutting her off because he didn't want her to reveal something. That made me really uncomfortable. And Natalie kept like turning her body language to Sean to like try to get a word out, and he kept cutting her off. And that just felt very icky to me. And then Natalie switches gears and she's like, you know what? You need to show proof. Where's the proof? He's not showing proof. And he's like, you're a liar. You're a scam artist. Those are big words. And I think that it can be argued that Josh is those things too, But yeah, y'all, that was the end of the tell-all. It wasn't as exciting as the others, but I feel like we got some gems. I would love to know your thoughts. Please let me know in the comments. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.